In the summer of 1764, fear began to spread across the rugged countryside of southern France. The region was known as Gévaudan, a remote province of forests, hills, and scattered farming villages. It was a land where life was hard, winters were long, and superstition lingered in the shadows of the trees. People lived close to the land. They walked alone through fields and forests every day. They were used to wolves. Wolves were a part of life. But what began that year was something different. The first recorded victim was a young woman tending cattle near the village of Les Hubaks. Witnesses later said a large animal emerged from the brush and attacked her directly, ignoring the livestock around her. That detail would be repeated again and again in the months to come. This creature did not behave like an ordinary wolf. It did not scatter at the sight of humans. It did not hunt sheep when people were nearby. It targeted people themselves. Soon, reports multiplied. Children walking between villages disappeared. Shepherds were found dead in fields. Travelers vanished along forest paths. Survivors described a beast unlike anything they had seen before. It was said to be enormous, larger than a wolf, with reddish fur and a long, powerful tail. Some claimed its chest was broad and muscular. Others insisted its jaws opened unnaturally wide. Accounts varied, but one thing remained consistent: it showed no fear. By the end of 1764, panic had taken hold of Gévaudan. Church bells rang to warn villagers not to travel alone. Parents kept children indoors. Farmers worked in groups, armed with pitchforks and muskets. Every rustle in the tall grass became a threat. Every distant howl froze blood in the veins of those who heard it. The attacks were brutal, and the death toll continued to rise. Many of the victims were women and children. In some cases, bodies were found partially consumed. In others, only torn clothing and bloodstains marked where a person had stood. Stories spread faster than facts. Some said the creature moved with unnatural speed. Others believed it was intelligent, even strategic, choosing victims carefully and avoiding large groups of armed men. Local authorities organized hunts, but the terrain worked against them. The forests were thick and uneven. Fog rolled through valleys without warning. Wolves were killed in large numbers, yet the attacks continued. Each time a large wolf was brought down, hope surged briefly through the villages. Each time, it was crushed when another body was discovered days later. The terror eventually reached the royal court. News of the killing spread beyond the province and into the wider kingdom. King Louis XV could not ignore the growing outrage. Royal hunters were dispatched to Gévaudan, armed with better weapons and trained dogs. Their mission was clear: find the beast and end the panic. Under royal direction, massive organized hunts took place. Hundreds of men combed the forests in coordinated drives. Dozens of wolves were shot. One particularly large wolf was killed and presented as the beast itself. It was displayed publicly. Officials declared the threat eliminated. Celebrations followed, but the relief was short-lived. Within months, new attacks occurred. The creature, or perhaps another like it, had returned. Or perhaps it had never left. The renewed violence intensified the mystery. If the beast had already been killed, what was responsible now? Was there more than one? Had the wrong animal been blamed? Descriptions of the creature grew stranger over time. Some witnesses insisted its fur was streaked or striped. Others described a dark line running along its back. There were whispers that it might not be a wolf at all, but some exotic animal escaped from a private menagerie. A hyena, perhaps, brought from Africa and released into the wild. Others spoke in quieter tones, suggesting darker explanations rooted in folklore and fear. Between 1764 and 1767, more than 100 people were killed in the region. The true number may never be known with certainty, but the impact was undeniable. Entire communities lived under siege. The beast became more than an animal. It became a symbol of helplessness, of nature turned hostile, of something beyond understanding. In June of 1767, a local hunter named Jean Chastel claimed he would end the nightmare. Unlike the royal hunters, Chastel was a man of the land. He knew the forests and valleys intimately. According to later accounts, he waited calmly during a hunt, reading from a prayer book as others beat the brush. When the creature appeared, he raised his musket and fired a single shot. The animal fell. The body was examined and described as unusually large, with proportions that did not entirely match a typical wolf. Some accounts noted abnormalities in its teeth and skull. Others described its fur as reddish with darker markings. The carcass was transported and presented as proof that the beast had finally been killed. After that day, the attacks stopped. No more bodies were found in the fields. No more children vanished on forest paths. Gradually, life returned to a cautious normal in Gévaudan. The terror that had gripped the region for 3 years seemed to dissolve into memory. But the mystery did not fade. Even at the time, questions lingered. Was the animal truly extraordinary, or had fear magnified its image? Could a particularly large wolf, perhaps suffering from disease or abnormal behavior, account for the attacks? Some historians argue that wolf attacks were more common in 18th-century Europe than modern audiences realize. Others suggest there may have been multiple animals involved, creating the illusion of a single unstoppable beast. There are more unsettling theories as well. A trained animal, controlled by a human. A deliberate hoax amplified by panic. Or a rare hybrid between wolf and dog, unusually aggressive and fearless. No single explanation satisfies every detail. What makes the story endure is not just the violence, but the uncertainty. Over 100 deaths cannot be dismissed as imagination. Something real stalked those forests. Something powerful enough to overcome armed villagers. Something bold enough to return again and again. The Beast of Gévaudan exists in the space between history and legend. Unlike folklore creatures born purely of myth, this story is documented in official records, church archives, and royal correspondence. It is grounded in reality. And yet, it resists complete explanation. Today, the forests of the former Gévaudan region are quieter. Wolves have returned to parts of France, but none carry the same shadow of terror. The hills no longer echo with church bells warning of a predator in the fields. The story survives in books, documentaries, and whispered retellings. It remains a reminder of a time when humanity did not dominate the landscape completely, when fear could spread unchecked through isolated communities, and when something unseen in the tree line could change the course of history. It remains a reminder of a time when humanity did not dominate the landscape completely, when fear could spread unchecked through isolated communities, and when something unseen in the tree line could change the course of history. The beast may have been an animal. It may have been several. It may have been misunderstood. But for the people of Gévaudan between 1764 and 1767, it was terrifyingly real. And even now, centuries later, when wind moves through tall grass and shadows stretch at dusk, the question lingers. What truly walked those forests?